welcome to SMETV and Podcasts. I'm your host, Angela Vithulkas, and this is the News and Views Let's Talk panel. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to support us and all SMEs, and you can share, like, and comment. In this episode, we bring together the mega of marketing magnificence because 3Ms are better than one. Today's big question is this: is it time to batten down the hatches or ratchet up the marketing machine? Joining me today to answer this and maybe one or two other little things is Matthew Bywater, marketer, founder, and regular media commentator. Welcome, Matthew.
Thanks, Angela.
You're not that far away, but it feels like you're far away, but welcome. Ashton Bishop, Australia's predatory marketer and CEO of Step Change. Welcome, Ashton.
Thanks, Angela.
You're also not that far away, but you're a local for me anyway. But last but not least, the youngest and most handsomest of them all, Mr. Roy Cammarano, who is an internationally recognised expert and organisational evolution and customer strategy, everything magnificent. Hello, Roy.
Good evening or good afternoon.
Well, is it evening where you are?
It is 10 p.m. in San Diego, no, 9 p.m. in San Diego, California.
That's way past my bedtime normally. So thank you all very much for joining me near and far. Now, the Let's Talk panel, and we're talking about marketing today, and specifically, is hibernation over? Should we get marketing? Are we still in lockdown? We're facing these issues every single day if you are in business. Either you've not trading because you're a retailer and you're front facing, or you have a business that's service, or you're online, somewhere in between there. You're full of angst. You don't know what to do. Should you do nothing or should you do something is the question. Okay. Matthew, let's start with you. Judging by the specialist level of marketing magnificence that we have here, gentlemen, we should be able to conquer the world very, very quickly. But we'll start with something easier. What's going on with the customers? And I'd like for you all to jump in here when you're ready. What's going on with the customers now? Has their behaviour changed? Are we still the same as a customer? Is it a temporary change? Matt, what are we doing as customers? Or do we have no idea as well?
All the above. I think everything's changed. We're definitely living differently. We're buying differently, and we are certainly thinking differently. So we've got to think about what is the customer should, what's changed in the customer psyche that we have to become aware of and how we change our marketing.
But is it temporary? Are any of these things that you're talking about temporary?
No, I believe these are going to go on. This will change because every time a community goes through a major traumatic experience, whether it be a war, a recession, or something, it changes for a generation. So
wow.
A lot of things, and if you look at recent reports by McKinsey, by Accenture, they're showing that most people believe the changes that they've had to do in their daily lives when it comes to their personal and professional lives are going to persist for some time yet, maybe forever. So that's, as marketers, we're trying to work out what those changes are and how do we adjust. Can I just make one point?
Yes.
We stop marketing. I'd like to differentiate marketing from advertising.
Yep.
Because whether we stop advertising or not, it may be pertinent to do, but to stop marketing, never.
So, which we've seen, especially in the sporting fields, where a lot of the sponsors have taken away their sponsorship money. So a lot of those organisations are dead in the water. So that's advertising to some degree, intending to be marketing. I like that we're differentiating there. And also, Matthew, that you've said that these kind of global impacts affect a generation to come. So let's look at that then. If we've hit a global pandemic and we're going to affect a generation to come, as marketers, you're supposed to predict the change, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're supposed to do to get ahead of the curve. You're supposed to predict the change. So if we're living differently, we're buying differently, everything that we do as a customer is different, therefore everything we do as business owners is going to be different. How the hell are we going to get this right? Because I've never lived through a global pandemic.
Well, I think part of us is being flexible. I mean, some people get hell-bent on trying to focus on the end goal, when the most important thing is the plan. And the plan, a good plan is not only direct and it's focused, but it has to have some degree of flexibility on it. And it's really important. In our business, we always often talk about being proactive versus being reactive. I think right now, a danger for a lot of businesses, they're the third one and they're inactive.
Right.
It's more important to actually get some plans in place and start moving ahead. Because some of these things we know of. We know already the customers buying more online. We know already customers becoming more health conscious. So we know more and more people are or intend to be working more and more from home into the future.
Yep.
So we know that. There's a lot of things we don't know. But the important thing is that we start planning ahead. For the things we don't know, we can adjust as we go along.
Well, Roy, I want to bring you in here because you're in San Diego. Are we talking about anything that's different from your perspective in the States, or is
No.
Matthew making sense here? And Ashton, if you don't think Matthew's making sense, please tell us, because he needs to know, apart from the rest of the world that's listening. But is it different from where you sit?
No. And I think what's happening with the business owners in California is they have to know what they can control, what they can't control. They have to look at things proactively as opposed to reactively. They have to make design decisions, not default decisions. And where I get irritated in the United States, in California especially, is when people start to talk about the new norm.
Yeah.
Because there is no new norm. It's new, but it has not, from a social norming perspective, been established yet. And it's up to the leaders, especially the business leaders, to establish what that new norm is, what the social norming will be. And what you have to do in business is you have to get to the point where you are truly and passionately living at effect. What's my plan? What am I going to do? Circumstances may change, but I am going to. As opposed to affect, well, the regulations changed, the customer changed. I don't know when they're going to open the state. I don't know when they're going to open the province. Yep. If you're thinking that way, you're in big trouble. And I think Matthew's right, is that you need inactivity is scary to me. When an animal is in a dangerous situation, they either freeze, fight, or flight.
Yep.
And what we have to do right now as business owners is fight for our customer, fight for and look at the behavior of those consumers and make ourselves attractive to those people that come to us. It's easy to constrict, it's difficult to expand, and in that expansion, you have to make yourself attractive so that your loyal customers come back and are passionately involved in what you are trying to accomplish. And I think that here and in Australia, what you have to do is you have to really look at what does that customer's experience mean. When we look at masks in the United States versus other parts of the country or the world, in Asia, when I've been to Asia, lots of people wear masks.
Yes,
and, it was part of
their
what
norm. It's their norm.
It's their norm. In the United States, if you wear a mask, for us, it's the wild, wild west, and you're Jesse James going to rob a bank. So,
well, I still feel guilty if I wear a mask going out, and I only wear a mask at the moment if my mother insists on it. Ashton, taking a look at and the fact that you're, interestingly enough, Roy's just mentioned, if you're an animal, you freeze and it's flight or fight. You're a predatory marketer. You like to deal on purpose with challenging businesses who don't quite fit a niche. Aren't we all like that now? Is this the time for us who don't fit that niche, who aren't about to necessarily take over the world? Is this the time for us now, these challenging businesses, to rise to the challenge and actually completely reassess how we do our marketing and the purpose of it? Have we got a unique opportunity here?
Well, it is opportunity. And when you actually look at, changes in how we work, buy, decide, connect and live, all of those things have changed. But COVID-19 isn't necessarily everything's changed. It's accelerated some of the underlying trends. Okay. If you have a look at software as a service, if you have a look at the platform revolution, Tony Seba did a talk and he said, every business over the next decade will face competition with the Uber of. And that's the opportunity and that's the challenge, right? So when that comes to your marketplace, and it will, you either be that disruption and maybe the opportunity where we're actually seeing the movement of people and goods restricted globally, you can actually start that locally. Or you may need to bridge your core offering. And the question is while things have changed, what hasn't changed is we buy on value, not price. There's a few things we can go into a bit later, that actually looks at what businesses are doing right now. Because to Matt's point before, you can't just look at it and wait. You must act now. And to Roy's point, there's not one future. There's many different futures, and we need to act now so our preferred normal emerges. And the third thing, and probably the biggest opportunity for small and challenger businesses right now, is niching. If you can find something that's inch wide, mile deep, because for every trend, there's a counter trend, and that's how you win. There is somewhere between 4 to 7% in any category or sector who are non-price sensitive. So right now, you need to find the people who are doing all right. Because there's three groups. We're we're all rising on the same tide, but we're in different boats.
Yes.
So there's about 45% of the population, they're okay. Some of the businesses are wondering, not what am I going to do, but how am I going to get it done? We're also seeing about 24% of the population who are just, they're in shutdown. They're ruined. And it's the people who are frozen who are probably the key for all of us. And that's where businesses need to see how they can help unthaw that frozen block, because they're the key to the economy and they're the key to the future.
So, Roy, I want you and Matthew here to consider two polar opposites. Do you think American or US businesses, SMEs in general, have a bigger appetite to seize the moment than Aussie businesses? And Matt, you've spent time doing business both here and in the US. How do you view that? Do we have that hunger here in Australia down under? And can we bring it, Roy? Can we bring it?
Well, I think the Australian market is, and I lived in Australia in the 80s, so I'm a big fan. I think in Australia, you have the can-do attitude that never dies. In the United States, I think we're looking a little bit too much to government regulatory environments and the government driving out PPP, which is the ability to have payroll for your people, yeah. EDIL loans to help your businesses. We went through the global financial crisis in 2008, and before that, we had bailed out other big car manufacturers. So I think, unfortunately, in some instances in the United States, we're waiting on somebody, which I dislike in every capacity, to help us get to that point. But I also believe that those people who aren't willing to wait and it's a cliche, but seize the moment,
yep,
and decide what they're going to do are really going to make a great impact in the future market.
Well, Matthew, if it's US versus Australia, do we win?
I think we do. And usually I wouldn't say it against America, but I'd really back American entrepreneurship, and particularly I love their marketing. And in America, you can be much more upfront and out there with your marketing. But America is United States of America, and sometimes I question the United bit, because they are like 50 different countries at times, and they are really fractured. Going back for about 16 years now, they've become very polarised. It's not just the current president, it goes back to the previous one, where they are acting with different, and that has an impact on business, because we all trade across borders, not just internationally, but state.
Yeah, but we have had our own political issues here. Even very recently, in the last few days, we've had some bickering amongst our premiers because of who's shut borders and who hasn't shut borders, and they were wondering whether New Zealand was going to be let in before we could actually go to our own states. I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. We would normally be lagging with the states in our appetite, but I think the pandemic and just the size of the infection and the death rate in the US is just so confronting. I think that's where we might have a little bit of the advantage, where Roy said, about our spirit. Ashton, our spirit is alive and well here because we haven't been facing just that part. So we do have the opportunity, guys, to breathe here as business owners. And you're right. I think the consensus between the four of us here is that the customer hasn't changed so much. They still want good value, right? Where they're going to buy things, that's still a question mark. It's always been online or physically. We've just had to make do. I mean, I'm freaking out because I'm doing everything online, and I just want to touch things and hug people again. Not every people, but some people. Let's have a look at, though, if right now, let's assume Roy, Ashton, Matt, we've answered the big world questions on the pandemic, but what should you actually be doing now to separate you? So we're all in the same ocean in different boats, but should we be auditing our businesses? Should we be looking at automation, pivoting? What are we doing? Ashton, let's go with you. What should we be doing? We can't do everything.
So the answer is, what we should be doing is, yes, we should be doing something. And most people are actually chewing up too much time looking at memes, looking at news, trying to figure out the global stuff, and instead of figuring out what they can do right now. So the sorts of things that you mentioned are actually staged. The first thing we need to do is cut out anything that's extraneous. So customers are asking, do I really need that? And businesses should be asking, what can I stop? So the first thing to do is a stock audit. The second thing to do is give your customers certainty, especially if you're an SME. It's the Clayton Christensen, The Innovator's Dilemma. People choose today who they think is going to be ahead in the future. And that might mean just being around. So you must reach out to your customers and not say, oh, we sympathize and empathize with you so much. Like you get dry cleaners who you left a shirt with 4 years ago saying, I know exactly how you feel, I'm wearing this together. No, right? It's about showing strength, commitment, and doing something. And a lot of it comes down to pricing and value. And we're seeing people who are discounting their core. Don't discount your core offering. Right. Repackage something of value. It's the difference between the restaurant that goes, look, 15% off if you get delivery versus the restaurant that engineers that says, you're probably at home, you're going mad, here's the family pleaser dish. They're different.
Oh, I've loved that. So I live in the CBD of Sydney, and a lot of the hospitality people around us, we've got some of the best restaurants in Australia around us. And of course you can't go to them. And it's not just they're doing home delivery, but they're doing cooking tips. And they've got videos of their big head chefs cooking a meal from the package that they would send you. So they are showing you, look, it's this easy. You get the box, here are the bits. And I've been watching more and more of those things because it makes me feel a little bit normal. Like, oh, I could almost do that. Like it's within my reach. So I think it's a beautiful thing to watch us all try and connect and engage, because I think the bigger brands haven't been able to do that. They've gone out for that mass reach, but they haven't gone for that engagement. So I'm feeling a little bit warm and fuzzy from the big brands right now, which I haven't felt for a while. But they seem to be doing that well, Ashton. Us smaller people aren't doing it that well. So
I saw Sydney Seafood School on a couple of fronts where they managed to take the come and we'll teach you how to cook there, and they package that up and put it at home. So 3 or 4 different places have seen it.
They're doing, it's great for food in a way. We just don't have that mass. It's a perishable item. It's not the same as something else. But Roy, in all your years of doing business, and I don't mean to make it sound like you've been in business a long, long time, but okay, you have. That's why, you're part of the organisational revolution. But the fact is that you have to make tough decisions when you're wearing the big hat, right, guys? If you've got the big hat, you've got to make the tough decisions.
Yeah. Peter Drucker asked 3 questions, who I believe is the father of modern management. He said, what business am I in? What business will I be in? What business should I be in? He also said
before the pandemic, right?
Yeah. And he also said, there's a big difference between efficiency and effectiveness. And effectiveness, I think, is where businesses have to head to, doing the right things and engaging your customer where your customer is. Because, in relationships in the world, you can give away 2 things, everything that you have, which is your knowledge and your love, and still have all that you started with. Yep. And the same thing is going to be true with businesses. If you can engage the customer in their head and in their heart, if you're safe and easy to do business with, and you're compassionate to their needs, they will flock to you. Now, that's good business before the pandemic. It's good business during this time frame, and it's going to be great business afterwards, because you want to understand that customer and give them a great customer experience. I loved your example of, I just want to feel something. Mm-hmm. Imagine if that could be there in 2 hours. When you click on a button, you can feel it, and then you can give it back and you can do it, and it can happen that quickly.
Well, you know that you're not feeling, or you want to feel engaged when you start to spend a lot of time on YouTube watching the most mundane of things. I'm telling you that I have almost bought every single kitchen gadget that is out there because it looks like it's fun to use, and it might make my life extra special if my zucchini is spiralized. And I think it's even more important to understand that you as a consumer want to take control of what you have a beginning, a middle, an end, and an accomplishment. So how do you as a business create that accomplishment for your customer? When they're done, they go, I feel good about myself and you because you helped me. So Matt, what are we going to see here? I'm going to put you on the spot now. Ashton, you're next. What are we predicting now about not every business will survive this? No. Not necessarily because of COVID, but because they were precarious before it happened, and this has just highlighted it, and no one's going to let them hang on. Mother Nature will be culling the weakest of us, unfortunately. So let's put that group aside. those of us that do come out the other end will have to, we've already, discussed that we have to do a stop audit. We have to really think hard about our message and our brand and what we want to deliver to the consumer. But, the online space is going to get very crowded. It's already crowded. But instead of saying that you've got competition in retail, next door and down the block, bloody online is going to be very noisy.
Mm. The companies that succeed are going to realise that digital supports the real. It's not an either-or thing. This is not a binary decision. It should not be a binary process. The companies that do it really well not only act online, they're responsive very quickly, but then they work out a way of getting physical. Give you just a loose example. I read in one of the papers on the weekend about East 33, who I never heard of before, but apparently they're one of Sydney's premier oyster suppliers, all the restaurants.
Yes, I love what they're doing.
Yes. So Monday at 4 p.m, I ordered 2 dozen oysters.
Did you get Sydney Rock?
Tuesday, I got 3. So I got the
got the mix.
Yeah, got the mix. Got the tri pack. So Tuesday at 7:30 a.m, I've got to believe it, a beautiful big box arrived. I'm talking a really nice box. I love good packaging with all the little hay fluffy stuff inside it. Inside a Hessian sack with ice trays. And this is like $69 for 2 dozen oysters delivered, and they were superb oysters. I mean, I ate them all last night, not by myself, but yeah. So there's
getting a little bit personal.
Well, we can be inactive. We can complain about the situation. We can rely on JobKeeper to try and keep some people employed. But so no, we need to pivot.
Because you would never have, 2 months ago, you would never have ordered oysters that way. You would have got in your car and gone down to the fish markets to get it. And now we hope that they're going to be around past this, because why wouldn't you want them delivered? And your face lit up when you talked about the packaging, because, Matthew, let's face it, he's all about that promotional material. But they just engaged with you in a way you never thought, and it wasn't expensive, even if you did eat them all for breakfast. He's lying. He's lying, by the way, when he says he didn't eat them by himself.
I shared them. But see, they did it all right. See, they followed through on the promise.
Yep.
And because of that, now, like you said, it changes behaviour. So the digital shift already happened. The other thing that's happened amongst the research is showing that we're going to have a growing love for local. But you have to supply it. The reason why we often don't buy local, and now oysters aside, for most things we think it's better made somewhere else. But as long as the smaller company, once they show and prove themselves, you've got them.
So you think it's the time of the underdog. Ashton, what do you think? Is it the time of the underdog?
It's not the big take the small. I think it's the fast take the slow. And there's opportunities to win if you can be relevant. I love what Roy was saying before around the customer experience. And I've seen research from Forrester Research that says, so Warren Buffett quote, it says, "It's only when the tide goes out do we see who's really swimming with no clothes on." And a lot of people have just been caught naked. Now, of course, there's the category if you're in food or the food services or travel or those associated sectors, just very tough. It's fallen down, it's fallen hard. But for some of those other associated service sectors, it's just pulled apart who's ignored first principles of what value looks like. And there's a lot of people going, Agile. It's like, if you go back to where Agile started, it started in 1953. I think Roy already had his 3rd business up by then. Patercio and Edward Deming came out and said, your job in business is to maximize the value customers are willing to pay for and minimizing waste. And part of that, going back to Matt's definition around marketing, is what does a brand do? It sets up positive expectations that are then self-fulfilling. And in our society previous to COVID-19, it was so hard to be surprised or delighted. Now there is opportunity everywhere. So don't try and do an average job of everything. Pick a couple of lightning strikes and just bang, wow. And that's the opportunity. And that's to be brave. And we're scared and we're fearful, but risk is upside and downside. And that's where small businesses can win. If they take a stand and if they get a share of mind, they'll get a share of heart and they'll get a share of wallet. And that's how they win.
Well, I'm a purist when it comes to online content, and I would always prefer to be in the studio and have you all there with me so that we were nice and close, so that, you could tell when I was giving you that look about you.
Would you really want to be close to Matty after 2 dozen oysters?
I have to get him to fill out a questionnaire if he's going to come into the studio. What did you do last night first? So it won't be just take your temperature, tell me what you've eaten. So, but I'm having to face a new way of doing interviews, and I'm having to come up with a brand new concept of how can I connect with you all online this way, have that connection, but also bring everyone else into this world of connection. I think the winning formula is always be surrounded by 3 men, because I've got what you don't got, number one. So I'm just ticking off your list, Ashton, right? I'm a little bit perturbed by Ashton's technical accessories, which is what he's calling an owl. I think he's got 3 people in there taking different camera angle pictures. That's kind of why we see
2 for the price of 1 offer, Angela.
Double Ashton.
Yeah.
Roy, Ashton has implied that you came down the mountain with the tablets giving us the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing though is, and you tell me if I'm wrong, rarely happens, but what we're saying is not much has changed in business, right?
Well, first of all, Moses was the first guy to come down with the cloud from the cloud with a tablet. So I think the technologies exist for a long time.
Ouch.
How we use that technology. Every time we face, as a species, something new, and I loved your opportunity about Mother Nature, we have to adapt, or perish.
Yeah.
And there's no difference today for businesses. The thing, as rational humans, or hopefully rational humans, we have the opportunity to make those decisions differently. We're not looking for survival. We're looking for prosperity. Okay. And those are opposite end. It's not a scarcity mentality anymore. It's a prosperity mentality today. Yep. How do you create an environment that you, your employees, and your customers prosper in? And that will give you that competitive edge where people go, I want to do business with that person, that company, that concept. I hope they gave you, if you had to shuck your own oysters, I hope they gave you an oyster thing that has advertising on it so that you're always in the forefront of their mind to do things, right? Because
you can buy a shucker. If you don't have a shucker, you can buy one from them, or you get them shucked.
Yeah.
But Roy's talking about offering it as a free prize inside. It just happens to be custom branded.
And right there it says, go onto our video that we designed especially for you to understand how to do this. And now what you have is not only did you get it, but you're actively involved in it as a customer experience, and they're giving you instructions to do certain things. And during that instruction to do certain things, they have all kinds of time to continually drive into you how they differentiated themselves to do something very special for you.
How long before they're advertising on RSVP?
Well, the only thing you really did for them is bought their excess inventory and did it yourself.
There was actually there was an adult exotics company who actually said, stay home and shuck yourself. It was a campaign that's launched and got headlines on all around the industry.
I love it. It's the time. I mean, and that's what a lot of people are doing. Let's face it. I mean, that's what else are you going to do if you're in isolation? Buy oysters, eat, drink, buy more oysters, do other things. We are going to run out of time, but I do want to make sure that I put you all in a very difficult position myself here. You are magnificent marketers. We're covering the spectrum of everything. We've already discussed a lot, but now the future, because that is your job, gentlemen. All 3 of you have been in business and are in the position where you have to predict the future somehow, at least be ahead of the curve or one step in front of the other challenged business. So what can we do in this future that's coming? Our current business models, we've talked about that, but is everything irrelevant now? Do we have to kind of put who we've been in a box and become someone else? Or what is this future that we are looking at? Come on, tell us. What is the customers now going to demand from us besides a hug? And I won't say the new norm, Roy.
I appreciate that.
I was going to say, crossed it
out. Well, the new norm is going to be established by those businesses that are brave enough to take action, that can say, here's the things we did really, really well in the past that people really can adapt to in the future. Yep. And the things that we didn't do, we need to just stop doing. Right. If you're not safe and easy to do business with, people aren't going to do business with you. So how do you capture, as Ashton said, their mind, their heart, and their wallet? And I think realistically, you have to be brave enough to tell them you're willing to do that. You're willing to meet them at the place that they want to do business with you, and that you will adapt your pivot, create a model that welcomes them into your business, whether it's online, in a store, somewhere else. And it's a matter of you taking action, not being inactive, because if you're inactive, somebody else is going to take your spot. And it's like a parking lot. Is
tech going to keep up with what we need to do? Because let's face it, that in order for us to pull off this coup, this new revolution, if you will, of how we're going to come out the other side, do you think the tech's going to keep up with us? Because we've all had connectivity issues when we were all told that we probably wouldn't, or we could take it. We know that the infrastructure is not there to manage what could be part of our new way of doing business or living, and or both.
I think we have managed though, and that's the whole thing. You've seen universities who have taken their complete curriculums and put them online and commercialized them in 8 days. There was not a timeline in the world previously that saw that possibility or eventuality happening.
No.
And it's not perfect, but it's getting better. And if you look at the giants that have fallen, the Nokias who failed to see things, the Kodaks who failed to act, they just missed the rate of change. And that's our job, not to predict how things will look in the future, but look for the trends that are driving through. Like Siri's 8 years old. Is she perfect? No, but she's getting smarter at an incremental and exponential rate. So we need to see how we can add value as business owners, add value into customer experience. And there's going to be some things where we can lean on technology. So AI and algorithms can give great recommendations and personalizations. To Maddie's point before, it's not about your advertising, it's your marketing automation system that gives the customer a virtual hug. If we can't put our arms around them physically, our marketing automation can make that person feel with some care and attention. And with staff and teams as well, it's not about when they stay between the guardrails, it's what happens when they go outside. We did a post this week on delivering happiness and Tony Shane, the Zappos story. And his thing was all about that discretionary effort, not when you tell people what to do, but that human element. And that's the magic moving forward, of figuring out the repetitive, systematic optimization, that efficiency piece, and then the effectiveness piece is going to be the human brain, to be able to disconnect new and novel things in ways where we get that, because that's what's going to cut through.
It's nice to know that the human brain is still be relevant, and my fears of us actually living the reality of a Terminator movie, given that we're all have this high expectation of technology now, and in particular AI. Matt, last words?
Well, yes, technology.
Get your crystal ball out.
Yeah.
What is the future?
We don't need to look to the future. We've got everything we need right now.
Okay.
I'm talking about technology. Our internet connections, there has been some issues across some areas. Perhaps as more people start going back to work slowly, as kids start going back to school, maybe people not watching Netflix during the day might help us all with connectivity. Just an option there. So
while they're eating their oysters.
There's plenty of shucking going on. That is not a productivity issue, but perhaps particularly down the track. So you've got technology available there today, all that we need right now.
Yep.
Knowledge and information. We've got everything possibly want. You think of just access to online experts, TV shows, online courses, universities. So we don't need to wait for anything. There's a term I like to use is unrealised assets, and sometimes we don't realise till we go do a stop audit.
Yep.
We don't realise how much stuff we've built up in all our years of business. Look at those, work out what you can repurpose for today. And this is saying, this is why I say never stop marketing. Doesn't mean you're always advertising, but you're always marketing. So don't wait for tomorrow. Start today. What's the old saying is that the best time to start was yesterday. The next best time to start, today. So same thing.
And if you don't do yesterday and today, then retire.
yeah, you'll be one of the statistics.
It's a brave person's game now. That's what it is. You really do need to step up or step out, right? It's stay home and stream and watch Netflix all day, or get in amongst it and have a go. It can't be that wrong. Okay. So as usual, we have run out of time. In fact, we have gone way over time. But I want to thank you all, Matthew Bywater, Ashton, and Roy Cammarano. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Now, to everyone that is watching and listening, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can support us and all SMEs. And of course, you need to share, like, and comment if you have something nice to say. And if not, email me directly, please, and share that too. A huge thank you to the SMEA Association for making SMETV possible. And the email address, if you have any comments, questions, or ideas, news@smea.org.au. And I will see you all next time. Thank you very much.